What is going on, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. I hope you're all doing well. Now, today I've got for you a story from r/best of Redditor updates, which spans a couple of years. This man was sadly put in prison for almost a decade, and during that time lost contact with his girlfriend. Since coming out, he's now come on Reddit and is asking the people of the internet, should he get in contact with her again or not? I, a 35-year-old man, was incarcerated and lost touch with a 33-year-old woman. It's been over 10 years. Would it be wrong to contact her now? When I was a university student, I fell in love with Daria. Not her real name, obviously. She was the little sister of my best friend, so I considered her off limits, but my crush on her persisted and grew. She's one of those beautiful, brilliant people who is alive and breathing to make the world a better place. How could I not be drawn to that? One day, she told me she had feelings for me. And to my relief, my best friend didn't have a problem with me dating his sister either. So, for 2 wonderful years, Daria was my girlfriend. I should have asked her to marry me. I don't know why I didn't. I suppose I thought I had all the time in the world. We were young and there was no need to rush things. We lived in a country that isn't exactly democratic, and we were political activists. I ended up getting arrested and going to prison for 9 years. Please don't think I'm some kind of monster for this. I don't want to go into details in case it makes me identifiable somehow, but we didn't hurt anyone or do anything immoral. What we did isn't even illegal in the country where I currently live, and our beliefs were far from extremist. I haven't seen or spoken to Daria since the day I got arrested. My best friend died shortly after, and Daria left the country, partly due to the possibility that she'd be arrested too. There wasn't any way for her to contact me while I was in prison, though apparently she contacted my dad a few times in the beginning. Things got even worse in our country while I was incarcerated, so my dad and I emigrated when I was released. We've been living in Western Europe ever since, and life is pretty okay. I live with my dad, and I have a steady, if trashy, job. Months ago, I found Daria online. She lives in a neighbouring country, 7 hours away by rail. She doesn't use social media too much, but from what I've seen, there's no evidence of a partner or kids. And even if she's married, I'd be content just to be her friend, as I was for the first years we knew each other. Part of me desperately wants to reach out to her, and my dad has been encouraging me to do so. But I feel like it'd be too selfish. The circumstances of her brother's death were very traumatic for her. Oh, I see, that's the best friend you're referencing. Okay, so your best friend is of course her brother, I understand now. So the circumstances of her brother's death were very traumatic for her, and I'm afraid that I'm just a living reminder of all the bad things that happened to us. And if she does have a partner, would my contacting her offend him and trouble their relationship? I don't want to cause her any more sadness. Time stood still for me while I was in prison, but I know it didn't for her or anyone else. She's done so well for herself. She's built a whole life, and I don't want to derail that life just because I feel entitled to a place in it. She might not even remember me at all. And even if she did invite me back into her life, I'd be nothing but a burden now, owing to my wrecked mental health. We've been apart twice as long as I knew her. Have I even the right to miss her as much as I do? For now, I've contented myself with Googling her name every so often and seeing that she's okay. It just hurts a lot, and I don't know how to make it not hurt. I still love her with everything I have. I probably always will. So should I reach out to her or leave her alone? If I do contact her, what should I even say? Okay, well, from my point of view, there's no doubt about this one. You definitely should try and get back in contact with her. You just seem like a really nice person anyway. I was a little bit sort of worried when I read the title of this one that you might have done something pretty serious. I mean, who knows what happened that got you into prison for that length of time. But 9 years, 10 years is a long period of time. So I was worried it was something that was a lot more serious, and that maybe for Daria, it really wouldn't be worth you contacting her and trying to get back into her life in some way. But from reading what I've just read, it's abundantly clear that you are a very, very nice person, a good person. And who knows? I think there's a decent chance that she might still think about you in the same way. We're going to see what happens next. The first update we're about to get into was posted just a week after the original post. But yeah, my initial sort of thinking is it's definitely worth at least trying to get back in contact with her and just, seeing what's going on in her life, even if it is on just a friendly basis. Okay, let's jump straight into that. First, I want to say thank you to everyone who offered advice or kind words. I spent so long feeling ashamed about my situation and expecting most people to react very negatively if they knew. I had barely discussed it with anyone before, except my dad and people whose job it is to help me. lawyers, therapists, etc. And I was very surprised to be met with so much compassion from a bunch of complete strangers. Thank you, truly. Several people asked for an update, and that is the least I can do. I sent Daria a message the evening after I made my post. It was something like, I don't mean to intrude, but I wanted to say hello and thought I would give you my new contact information in case you ever felt like getting in touch. If not, that's completely fine too. I left her my mobile number and email address, wished her well, and that was that. I knew it might be a while before she responded, if she responded at all, so I tried to put it out of my mind. Early Monday morning, my phone rang. It was an unfamiliar number from the country where Daria lives. Who else would ever be calling me from there? I panicked a little bit, but I managed to answer in time. She asked me a few times if it was really me, and I couldn't tell if she was laughing or crying. At first, she called me by the very affectionate version of my name she used to, but then she quickly apologized and corrected herself, which broke my heart a little bit. It was an awkward phone call, but not in a bad way. I was extremely nervous, and it seemed like she was too, but happy also. Some of you mentioned that Daria would want to know that I was safe, and this was more true than I could have guessed. Because unrest in my country increased a lot during the last year I was in prison, she was afraid that they would decide to quietly kill me rather than let me go. There are documented cases of other prisoners like me having met very suspicious ends in the months before my release, so it wasn't a totally unreasonable worry. She also said she repeatedly tried to send me parcels of supplies and put money on my commissary account, but her attempts were rejected without explanation. After my sentencing, I was not allowed to receive correspondence or to have a commissary account at all because of the classifications of my crimes, so she was forced to give up. She told me this as an apology, as if I would have been disappointed with her for not helping me more. I had no idea she had done any of that. I do know that it was not a safe thing for her to do though, and I feel terrible that she put herself at risk trying to make me a little more comfortable. I think that's something that I might have slightly glossed over here, guys. Due to the nature of OP's crimes, I say in inverted quotes, I'm not 100% sure what's going on there, but it's political, right? And the stuff isn't even illegal in the country as in right now. Yeah, it kind of makes sense as to why, unlike a normal incarceration or, a normal sentence, he wasn't allowed to have any contact with anyone outside of the prison. Not as in it makes sense, as in I can understand how that happened, and that is why Daria wasn't able to get in contact, or I guess why they weren't able to keep in contact with each other through this sentence. Anyway, let's get back to it. She didn't seem to want to talk about what happened any more than that, and so we didn't. We changed the subject to more light-hearted things, our jobs, the cities where we live, how my dad is adapting to a new country, etc. When she arrived at work and had to end the phone call, she asked if I wanted to continue talking through a messaging app. Obviously, I said yes, and I downloaded it immediately. We sent messages throughout the day, and she even interrupted her commute home to send me a picture of a restaurant modelled after one of my favourite books, just because she thought I'd like it. She told me that she thought of me every time she saw it, but unfortunately the restaurant itself was not so good. I was afraid she wouldn't remember me, but she even remembers the things I like to read. She remembers a lot of little things, even stuff I forgot. We've been sending messages back and forth ever since, and talking on the phone after I finish work at night, until she gets too sleepy. Sometimes it feels like I'm 24 and she's texting me from a few blocks away, as if the next thing she might ask is, "What's for dinner?" Other times it seems like we're trying to will dead versions of ourselves back to life in order to avoid acknowledging what we've lost. She seems a lot more timid than she used to, more passive, which I suppose makes sense. Sometimes I worry about how much I've changed, and that maybe she won't find anything left in me that's worthy of her. But if I could express in words what it feels like to hear her laugh, I could explain that there's also a lot that we know very well. She hasn't lost her kindness, or her warmth, or her empathy. She still cares about me, and I still care about her. I know that rebuilding a friendship after all that's happened will take lots of patience, and I have plenty to spare. I'm just happy to have the chance to get to know her again. This morning, Daria asked if I want to have a video call sometime this weekend. I agreed, but I'm ashamed to admit that as much as I want to see her, I'm very nervous. I look so different than she'd remember. My jaw is messed up, and I have the teeth of a hockey player. Fortunately, I will qualify for healthcare insurance soon and be able to have that fixed. I lost weight that I haven't put back on, and I see an old man in the mirror. I'm also very worried that I will get very emotional when I see her and embarrass myself that way. I don't really cry in front of people. I'm not used to it, and this doesn't seem like a good occasion to start. Aside from not wanting to appear pitiful, I don't want her to feel forced to comfort me. If anyone has some advice on how to handle this, it would be much appreciated. Overall, this week could not have gone better, and I'm extremely grateful to everyone who gave me the little push of courage I needed to send her that message. 1,000 times. Thank you. And also, just one edit at the end of this first update. Just to clarify, she doesn't have a husband or kids. Okay, you know what guys, normally before we get into the last update, I would give my thoughts, but I just really want to know what happens. So I'm just going to get straight into it. I don't want to waste your time. Let's go. This is the final update for now. Now this was posted a couple of months after the first update. OP says, I've had a lot of people ask for an update, so here it is. The last 2 months have gone by very fast. I told Daria that I was nervous about the video call, and she insisted on having it right away so that I could get it over with and stop worrying. Seeing her made everything feel real in a way it hadn't before. She still looks like herself, or even more beautiful, different only in the sense that she is fully an adult now. The place she lives in is very different from our home country, with a distinct culture to which she has assimilated. That she had time to adapt and feel completely at home in this place broke the illusion that no time had passed. In hindsight, that was probably the reason I had been so nervous, because I could no longer occasionally forget myself and pretend that nothing had happened. The hardest part was not being able to reach through the screen and put my arms around her. Sitting there and watching someone you love cry from a distance is not easy. I barely noticed that I was crying too. She didn't seem surprised at my appearance, but she did eventually look me over and ask if the food was rubbish where I lived. I explained about my jaw and that I'm getting it fixed. Less dental work is actually required than I thought, but I need surgery. Her response was to ask for my address and order groceries to be delivered, including a lot of soft snacks that are easy to eat and these meal substitution drinks that are actually tasty. She's sent them every week since, even though I tell her it's not necessary. When I wanted to pay her back, she laughed at me and said she owed me a lot of food because I had kept her from starving to death in university. I loved being able to cook for her, and I suppose it makes her just as happy to feed me now. We talk every day and have made video calls a regular habit. It does me so much good just to see her face, and the awkwardness is mostly gone now. It's easy to talk to her. Last night, she brought her computer into the kitchen and talked to me while doing the washing up. It's amazing how mundane things like that can make me feel normal and at home in ways I forgot I could. I never thought I'd be that stupidly happy to see someone washing coffee cups. I'm beginning to think that the idea of home as a physical place is a misconception. She likes to send photos to show me where she lives, what her life is like now. She was curious about how things are the same or different here. I didn't want to admit that I don't have much of a life to share back. Going places just didn't seem worth the effort. She is, though. At first, it was very small things. She would send a picture of a pastry she bought at a cafe, saying that she thinks her city has better pastries than mine. I would go out and get one so I could send her a photo too. Then it was beer. Which city has better parks, interesting architecture, a department store, and so on. I figured out quickly that she was trying to coax me into going out more, but I played along to make her happy. I've seen more of my city in the past month than the entire time I've lived here before. I've been to the art museum and finally joined my colleagues for a beer. Usually I go places for short durations at the least crowded times, but I'm still going, which is something. Daria used to be very sociable, so I thought that whatever happened, at least she wouldn't be lonely. I was actually wrong. There's a lot she could never tell her friends because they can't relate. They'd feel sorry for her and cease to be equals, she says. Our experiences are different, but we are more able to understand each other than other people could. And despite her own burden, she's quickly picked up half the weight from my shoulders without ever being asked to. I am in awe of her, simply for being the kind of person who would. For Women's Day, I sent her some orchids, and she was very happy that I remembered her favourite flower. The things I can do to make her smile are so small, and she deserves so much more than I know how to give her. But I would do anything for this woman, and I am learning. There are protests happening where she is, with riot police and tear gas. Whenever this happens, she feels nervous and has difficulty sleeping. Now, at least, I can stay on the phone with her at night so she's not alone. Aside from the anxiety, there's also a sense of nostalgia. She talks about when that was us making noise in the street. I'm glad she has good memories too, and doesn't have to be alone with them anymore. Finally, the reason I am updating now, she is coming to visit. We were talking last night and I mentioned that a church near me has special windows designed by an artist she loves, and I was thinking about going to see them eventually. She said it would be unfair of me to go without her, so I invited her to come with me. And then somehow it turned from vague future plans to being scheduled for next Saturday. She was going to come for the day, but I told her it was silly to travel so far to stay for such a short time, and I suggested she stay the entire weekend. So she'll be here from Friday until Sunday. I haven't really had time to be nervous yet, but I'm sure I will. Thank you again to everyone who has given advice or encouragement. It is very much appreciated. So there we go, guys. That is it. That is actually all we've got for now. I know, a little bit of a cliffhanger in many ways. At least the story has ended on a very positive note. And yeah, the future looks very bright for these two. But given the fact that this last update was actually posted back in March of 2023, I would have thought there'd be something else since then. I mean, it's been a year and a half and we've had nothing. But I suppose in theory that's a good sign. If someone's not posting to Reddit, you'd like to think that's a good thing. Who knows? But yeah, as for what we have so far, amazing stuff. And I'm very, very happy that is the situation that we've left this story in, where who knows what's going to happen in the future. But these guys are meeting up again, as they clearly both want to do so badly. So yeah, I'm very happy for OP and Daria. However, you could also argue, and I think to be fair, this is true, it's a very bittersweet story as well. Like, it's great that they are both in each other's lives again. However, I can't help but think that, you know, there's so much healing to be done. There's so much trauma there, perhaps. And OP was in prison for 9 years. Again, like, it's hard for me to really comment on that based on me not knowing exactly what went on. But it sounds to me as if OP didn't do anything bad at all. It was just against whatever the current regime was at the time. And for that reason, yeah, was put away for a long time, probably pretty corruptly. Who knows? I'm kind of guessing here, but we can kind of assume that is what happened. To be fair, that is what makes it bittersweet. They've missed out on maybe 10 years of being together and being happy together for their entire lives, but there is light at the end of the tunnel, and who knows? Maybe it all happened for a reason. We'll have to wait and see if we ever get an update to this one. But yeah, it's kind of it's a happy story, but tinged with a little bit of sadness of what might have been. That's what I'm thinking anyway. But there we go. That is going to do it for this one. Drop your comments down below. I want to hear your thoughts. I love going through the comments and seeing what you guys think of these stories. So yeah, let me know what you're thinking. A very positive story, to be honest, but all I can think is it could have been so much more.